Hi, I'm Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
And I'm Ginny Smith. Welcome to Soul Rising.
On this podcast, you'll hear honest, off-the-cuff, vulnerable conversations about all things love, loss, and connection.
Deep and meaningful conversations sure to pull at your heartstrings and enlighten your soul.
Again, welcome. It's time to let your soul rise. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. How is everybody today? Thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, you guys? It's so good to be here with you. As we're supposed to be making our way into spring in Colorado. It's not exactly spring, it's fake spring, but it's a good time.
I know.
We're happy to be with you guys. Happy spring.
Yeah, we do this every year, all Coloradans. We fool ourselves into thinking it's spring, and then we get pissed off when it snows like 2 feet after it's been like 70 degrees. And every year, we do it every year. It's like we would learn.
You would think. I know everyone's on. I'm going to understand. That's what I love about Colorado, though. It keeps us on our toes, and it makes me appreciative of the season that's on its way every time. Like every single time. I end up so happy. Like, yes, the sun is out.
Yeah. And so when I run downstairs in my gym, and right out the doors is a tree. And it was like, it had buds on it last week, like Monday or Tuesday. And I was so happy to see the buds. And then 3 days later, just popped, and there's these little leaves starting. And then I go outside to stretch, and there's it's probably a weed, but it has all these beautiful flowers. I literally stuck my face in it, and I was like, it makes us so grateful, right? Like, would I take advantage of it if it was always nice? Would I kind of lose that appreciation?
You know what? I spent a year living in St. Martin, which is like paradise on earth. But about 3 months into that, you're like, you know what? I don't know. I need some change in weather or some breeze or some rain, something. So yeah. But some people do way better in the sun. I'm one of those people, I do good with the change as I'm figuring out my little human self. My authentic self likes the change of season. My husband, he's all, F this. I hate the snow.
But the grass is always greener. You always know what you can't have.
That's why when people are like, how do you like Colorado? I'm like, I actually love it. I've lived in California. I've lived in New Jersey. I've lived in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
I love it. We get all 4 seasons and we get a good dose of them.
Yep.
And it's great. It makes me happy.
Yeah. I always say that we hit the weather jackpot here. There's no humidity. It's just beautiful. I could never wear my hair like this in New York, probably. It's really good hair weather out here, people. If you have hair like me, come to Colorado.
Would you just be like,
it would be huge.
Like 80s rock band?
And bigger, which is freaking awesome, right? Bigger the better. But it wouldn't be wouldn't have any shape to it. It'd be frizzy. It'd be like a lot of frizz, especially in the summer.
See?
Anyway,
we're here and we're glad you guys are with us.
Yes. Thank you so much. I mean, there are a million different shows out there. We know that. A million things you could be watching, you could be listening to, you could be reading, you could be, there is just so much coming at you these days. So if you're tuning in, thank you so much. And for our loyal listeners out there, we really, really do appreciate you coming back. So today we are calling this episode Stumbling into Authenticity, because the last show that Ginny and I taped together, which, by the way, Ginny, I just love when we get to do this together. I mean, I just love having you here with me. You bring so much, and I'm so glad we're doing this.
Thank you. It's a connection. It's a connection to you, to us, to people. I mean, we get to connect with a bunch of people. It's still something that sparks a ton of joy and inspiration for me, and I'm happy to be able to do it for sure.
So the last show we were taping, we were just having a conversation, and we started talking about the moment where you just stumble into your authenticity. Ginny actually said stumbling. She's like, we'll do that for the next show.
Because I stumble.
Because it's like a stumble. It's kind of like you're working on it, you're trying to do it, you're paying attention, you're aware, you're changing this, you're doing that. And then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and it feels like you just stumbled into it. Even though you've been working at it, it just feels like there's just a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think today we're going to talk about the shift and what it feels like to be authentic in emotions when they come up.
Oh, yeah. Because it's, as we all know, they are not, especially if you're somebody who's had coping mechanisms or just a way of dealing through life in a certain way. It's not always some comfortable situation where you're like, oh, great, I feel authentic and this is amazing. Sometimes you're like, what is this? What is happening?
Yeah, it feels strange. And I think that's the confusing part of it because it feels strange because you're not used to it. You're
Mhm.
not used to this new you or really remembering who you truly are, all
Mhm.
that. So then that might feel inauthentic in
Yeah.
the moment
Mhm.
because it doesn't feel 100% aligned yet, right? Some people
Yeah.
don't like that phrase fake it till you make it. I I like it. We say it in rooms of recovery. We also
Well,
say bring the body, the mind will follow.
you talk about anybody who discusses manifestation or anything like that, they talk about what we put our energy on grows no matter what. So you create your reality all the time. Whatever you're focusing
Mhm.
on, that is what will start to take the energy. That is what becomes. So yeah, I mean I get it. You're right. There's sometimes where you hear fake it till you make it and it's like, well, no, why would we want to fake it? The idea is that you're putting yourself in the frame of mind that this is who you're becoming, this is who you are. I think it's part of our whole purpose, our whole soul purpose here. We forget, we've talked about this before. We forget, we're meant to forget who we are. So sometimes when you're like, wait a minute, and you take a step into that authenticity, and sometimes it creates a wave of discomfort for others around you, where you before have been the person who's really good at stepping in and going, oh, I'll level out so I can make everybody else feel okay. Like if you're one of those
Mm.
people, I've definitely, empathic or response to trauma, whatever it is, I'm definitely one of those people. So the times when that authentic self comes out, not everybody loves it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody loves it at all. And then they're like, "Wait a minute, this is not what you normally bring to the table. I'm not cool with this."
I may have talked about this book in the past, but it's called The Dance of Anger, and it's
I
by
don't know.
Harry you'd love it. It's by Harriet Lerner,
Mm,
and I had to read it a couple times because the first time I don't think I was ready. I think I was
mm,
too afraid to do the stuff that she's suggesting in the book.
mhm,
But it's really about when you're creating boundaries or you're changing, which is also part of becoming authentic,
mhm,
right? Showing up for yourself, being in your true self. So that means that you're not going to act a different way to just appease people because that's not really who you are. So if you're being
mhm,
authentic, sometimes you like you're saying, you have to show up in these ways. And what she says is, I think she uses the phrase change back. And she says that and she talks about dance steps, right? So
mm,
and they may have talked about this in a show in season one. It's kind of ringing a bell, but it's the idea is that you're waltzing with somebody for
mhm,
like a while, right? You're in this dynamic.
mhm.
You say this, they say that, you get to this place, okay, it's okay. Even if it doesn't feel good, you're still waltzing with this person. All of a sudden you change because you're like, yeah, like I'm just not doing that anymore. Not who I am. So you start cha-chaing. You start doing the cha-cha. You're like, yeah, I'm done waltzing with you. It's not working. It's not work. It's stressing me out. I'm a
Yeah.
mess. I'm a mess and I'm unhappy. I have anxiety. I have all this stuff. She calls it change back. They are going to try to change you back into
You
waltzing again.
so the waltzing you.
They they want the waltzing you. Oh,
Mhm.
that's a really good
They
title.
know that routine. They're like,
Yes.
"I'll practice these moves. I know what you're gonna do. This other shit, you're gonna make me fall."
It's comfortable to them. It's yeah. You might step on my toes,
Right.
I might
Yeah, you might
fall.
step on my toes. Especially, I could see, like, this is probably yeah, this is an amazing book that I should look into, especially, again, if you're somebody who that is just the frequency you have been that frequency the better part of your life. You hear people talk about being the person who solves or fixes everything for everyone in a space, because that's almost like you're putting that frequency out all the time, and that's what people know, and then if you kind of change that, it's
Yeah.
like what you're saying, that becomes very uncomfortable for that person and they try to move it back to the dynamic it was.
Mhm. Exactly, and you can no longer be in that dynamic, right? Once you're cha-chaing authentically, you really cannot waltz again
Right.
with that person. It just
Doesn't work.
that's when you stumble into this authenticity. You're crossing this line. It's like you're crossing this line of no return. That once you fully embody and embrace this new you, then what used to be acceptable becomes completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
And there's just no wiggle room in that.
Right.
It's just like, no, this is not, I cannot do it. And that is such, when I talk about emotional freedom, I use that term a lot. It's the subtitle in the back of my book, Boundless Quest for Emotional Freedom and Soul
Mhm.
Evolution.
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this emotional freedom of I am no longer subject to your games you're playing, the language you're using to try and cajole me or get me to go back to this waltz.
I'm not
So,
even gonna play the game anymore. I'm not into it. You go ahead if you want, but I'm out.
and like we talked about in Many Faces of Grief in our show we put out on, I think it was episode 8 of season 2, is you have to be willing to accept that risk of loss.
Yeah.
Because that person, it'll be great. They might start cha-chaing with you. They might say, "All right, yeah, like, let's
Willing
do
to
this.
do that. Yeah.
I'm willing to do this because I don't wanna lose you."
Mhm.
But they might say no.
You may not be of use to them anymore because a lot of what happens I was looking at your post the other day about, the whole deal with narcissists and just like
Mhm.
narcissists have been some of my greatest teachers because of the fact that the way I'm wired, I'm like, whew, like you hear that dynamic a lot about empaths and narcissists. It's like moth to a flame all the time because people who are empathic find such value in helping others, and people who are narcissistic find such value in being able to siphon the energy out of somebody who's willing to offer it up. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's the perfect marriage of
Perfect.
dysfunction,
Perfect
right?
marriage of dysfunction. And there's never an end to it because if you are an empath, and again, or you're somebody who you may not even recognize it, you feel like you're serving your purpose by, well, I'm the person who helps and I'm the person who wants to help heal and I want to do these things. So we have this sense of purpose. But somebody who's narcissistic, and it's funny, like the more I read, the more I understand real narcissism, it's really easy for us to use the term, oh, they're so narcissistic. Or
Yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah,
the legit like explanation of it and what it is
yeah.
and where it stems from in a human being of them truly having this just such intense, almost self-hate for themselves. They have to
Mhm.
create this ego and they have to keep it alive. And what happens is it's like a vision of what they think they are, what the world should see of them. And then they take in everything to maintain that at all costs. And once you're not a part of that or feeding that anymore, if you're not part of keeping that thing alive, they don't need you anymore, and it's kind of it's like what you're saying. If you're cha-chaing and you're like, "No, we're switching to electric slide, bro. We're gonna do the electric
Fabulous.
slide,
Right.
okay?"
You're like, I thought about that the other day. I don't know why. I was switching laundry, and I thought about you on one of our shows talking about the electric slide. That was great.
Which yeah, I'm gonna do the electric slide, and if the person, like you said, if they care and if it's somebody where they're like, "Oh, man, I didn't realize you like that dance." Like, okay, like, I'm down for that. Or if you're with someone who's, like you're saying, they're losing the sense of control of you, they lose control of the exchange between the 2 of you, they might be like, "Well, no, 'cause this doesn't it doesn't work to my routine anymore, like, it's not my dance, like,
Uh-huh.
move on with you."
They need your energy to keep feeding their ego and to keep feeling better than grandiose because really we know for narcissists it's really it's an inferiority complex.
So I have this
It's really
false image, just like you're saying, grandiose image they're trying to keep alive. So you are either part of keeping that alive, whatever it is that keeps the image alive, to
yeah,
however they
yeah.
feel like that needs to be kept. And as again, that authentic part, right? There's some people who are just wired with that happens and they're like, "Cool, bro, I'm out."
Like,
But hey,
immediately. There are
yeah,
people who it's just, like, immediately, like, I see that and no, I'm not doing it, I'm not going there.
yeah,
But people like you and me who've had these childhood experiences and experiences along the way where we've
right.
compounded these messages
Mhm,
of inferiority or I need your approval or I need you to validate me or
yeah,
really recreating emotional abandonment, we talk about it all the time.
mhm,
We're getting something out of that relationship for a
yeah,
while, even though it's painful, right? And then at some point, as we stumble into this authenticity and we change, that need disappears. So it's not just like we're saying, like, oh, I'm not going to deal with that. You're disrespecting me. No, it's because you've changed. It's because
mhm,
you no longer need somebody to serve that need. That's exactly what it's all about. We're just walking around trying to get our needs met all the time.
yeah,
Right.
so true. It's so true.
So when you actually become your authentic self and maintain it and sustain it for a period of time to where it actually solidifies in your neural pathways and you become it and you're not trying so hard to like be so aware of, oh, how do I feel? How does this feel? And that's what you have to do in the beginning. For people who are really just starting out on the authenticity journey, that's what you have to do. You have to be very conscious of Does this make me happy? Does this light me up? Do I still enjoy the taste of whatever? Like me, like for example, drinking coffee. At some point, like it's a silly thing, but it's kind of like at one point, it's like, no, like I'm going to honor myself because coffee gives me anxiety. So I'm going to stop drinking it.
Mhm.
I'm going to I drink decaf and I drink a lot of tea because I actually like the taste of coffee. So my authentic self really likes the taste of coffee, but
Right.
it doesn't like the anxiety that it brings. So just getting very honest with myself about that kind of stuff and saying, like, what actually aligns with who I am. And like you said, becoming, or
Me
returning back to,
mm.
which is becoming again.
And also really just allowing yourself the space and kind of like the separation a little bit to get to see pieces of who you really are, to let yourself become who you really are. There's something to be said with being able to adjust to a situation, that you're somebody who's got that ability to adjust in order to normalize and level out the space or the room. When that's become your, factory settings, I use that term a lot,
Mhm.
giving yourself the time to go, whoa, 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 let me do the control alt delete and like literally wipe all that shit out right now and give myself the time and space to stop and listen to the cues from myself about, all right, what part of this is really me? Am I somebody who does really enjoy X, Y, and Z? Or is that me having this relationship, friendship, or if it's family where you're like, oh, I'm still going to engage in the same cha cha dance because I enjoy it or whatever it is, right? Or you have this sense of responsibility, or especially when it comes to family, like there's a loyalty thing, or I have to keep doing the cha cha because I have to, because they're family, because they're, and it's like, no, I actually don't. We don't
Mhm.
need to. And as much as that can be uncomfortable at first, giving yourself the space to separate from things a little bit and go, let me really feel, what is it that I really feel in this situation? And not so much the me that wants to make it all easier for everyone in the space, because that's been
Yeah.
like the trauma response or whatever.
And the challenge is when it comes up, when you're in it, right? When it rises and it's like checking in, you need to check in with yourself and say, is this really how I feel about something, whether I'm angry about it or I agree, either direction, either way. Am I just used to going along with this? Is this just muscle memory? Is this
Right.
just something that I'm just used to just doing all the time because I've always done it?
And a lot
It
of
might
time,
not even be a fear, it might not even be that deep. It might just be like, I'm just used to behaving this way. And then when that awareness comes that, no, that doesn't feel good to me anymore.
mm,
That's the challenge, to step into that new energy and
yeah.
say, that's not me. I'm not going to
But
do it.
I think for myself lately, as I'm aging, I don't know if it's just a combination of different things, right? I'm aging, as a mom, all the things, as a wife, as your marriage evolves, as the things change, as the kids get bigger. Um, we're all in our own little journey at the same time. Like, your interactions with people are also evolving at the same time. And I've noticed, especially, and I swear, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that for these 6.5 months, I got to just be here, that I took that sabbatical, that I took that time of just being with myself. Talk about stumbling, totally stumbled. Who knew? Like, I stumbled into realizing I absolutely love and have a passion for refinishing furniture. Who the hell knew? I had no idea. Totally stumbled into that. And that
Mhm.
in the practice of that, and me making the decision to do like what every financial advisor in the world would be like, "What are you doing?" "You're gonna be homeless." Like, so scared for me, which to this day, I'm like, I have no regrets. I'm convinced that that time I took with myself, for myself, doing something that my spirit enjoyed at its core, was literally something for me. It just fed my soul. To do that for 6.5 months and allow my everything in my neurological system to like, ooh, calm down, gave me this very clear picture of who I've been up to that point in my
Mhm.
environment, of being somebody who, again, through just for survival or different things or whatever it might be, it was all eliminated. Like, it was like all out of, my world. Since that period of time, and having that time to just be with myself, to kind of figure out the things that truly inspire me, have some time to just quiet down, going back into the world of like working, which I'm so grateful. I could not be more grateful for the opportunity that I have with working right now. I'm working my butt off, but in the best kind of way. But I have found myself super aware of my energy levels and my exchanges with people. And I know there's going to be some for work and I'm good at it. I can walk into a room with just about any person, somebody who doesn't like people, somebody who does like people, somebody who whatever it might be. I can find a way to connect with them on a level, right? For my
Mhm.
job, it's amazing and I enjoy that. But I've noticed now, I used to do it a lot, not because it was part of my job. It became my identity in a way. It became the thing, it
Mhm.
became the
Mhm.
cloak that I wore, the
Mhm.
thing that I had. And I've caught myself now. I sense now I can come into one of those exchanges where I know it's really not going to be of benefit, but that it's old hardwiring. And there's almost this like, uh, reminds me of the shopping carts, you know, the ones that have like the sensors so people can't steal them. And you're
Yeah.
walking and it's all well, see you're all, "What the" it is exactly like that. That I just it sort of reminds me of you're just cruising, not paying attention, and then your freaking shopping cart gut punches you. It's like that. I find myself now getting that warning, like and it is that way. It's literally how I feel. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no." I'm like, "Not today. I'm not gonna try to push this shopping cart out of this store. We're not fucking doing that. I'm put it back." And that's been something to me different, foreign. I think I probably always had the sensor there. I just was like, "Oh, let's turn the sensor off." Like, I just had it like, "Nah, I don't need to hear that. Let me just go
Mhm.
mess around with this person who wants to siphon my energy." Like, "No, it's
Mhm.
fine. Thank
Mhm.
you. I'll save them."
I don't know if we said it here, or if we were talking before we pressed record, but about how it might feel strange to, um to be that new version of you
Oh god.
doesn't mean that you're being inauthentic,
Mhm.
right? Like once you're stepping in and you're practicing these new behaviors, it's
Mhm.
going to feel odd. It's going to feel strange for a while. It doesn't mean that that's not truly your authentic self. It means that
Yeah.
it's taking a little while for your head and your heart to kind of catch up.
It's like breaking it in, like breaking in a new pair of like leather boots that are high quality and good. Like they're never most comfortable when you first get them ever. You got to wear them in.
Exactly. You've been a certain way for so many years, and all of a sudden you're now this new way. And yes, it's going to feel aligned. It's like it's not one or the other. You know, I've been very big on this. Somebody had said recently, it's not one or the other, it's and. Right.
Right.
So it's not that like you're not aligned because you're feeling a little bit off kilter or out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes we give off this idea, people talk about authenticity in this way that it just feels so right. It just feels so right. It feels so
True.
good. And
Yeah.
and
It doesn't always out the gate.
yeah, not always. At moments, it does. At
Yeah.
moments, it does when you just know that you're meant to do something like writing my book, like compared
Yeah.
to your to furniture.
Yeah.
You know, I had no idea. That was a total stumble into authenticity because I did not know I'd be writing a book. I had a vision or a desire to do something using my degree, using my natural abilities, doing something good for the world, yada yada.
Mhm.
And now that's the path that I'm going down. Like now I'm a writer, I'm an author. Like I'm doing all of this. This was totally stumbled into. This wasn't really planned. So it's really cool. But like it feels almost like you're faking. Like it's not really you. Like what? Like who am I? We talked about imposter syndrome. We have a whole great show on imposter syndrome
Yes, go
from
check it out. We definitely dive into that in there, and it's really, really interesting how we can be in that position of, doubting this authentic you. You're like, "Wait, there's no way that that's really me because 'cause I'm nicer than that." It's like, "I don't no." It's like, "No, bitch, you just didn't set up boundaries, that's all."
exactly. I want to go back to when you talked about walking into a room
Yeah.
and you need to level out the energy. Um, how it used to be and how it is now, how you are the same person.
Yeah.
That is part of your authentic self,
It is.
but it's
Yeah.
the way that you're using it. It's about checking the motive. It's about
One
saying, why do I feel the need to go do that as a thing? It's called triangulation. You, me, and then somebody else. And it's a
Mhm,
way of communication that's extremely dysfunctional.
mhm,
Why do I feel the need to step in between these two people to smooth it out? And maybe you still do feel like you need to step in the middle of those two people, like you were saying. This is what you were explaining, is that like, yeah, I'm stepping in between. I'm still doing that, but now it's for a different reason. Now it's because maybe that's just who I am inside. Like I feel like I'm like a bit of like a matchmaker. I can bring people together. I just am good with like energy and stuff like that. And starting the clubhouse here in Castle Rock, like
Yeah,
that was like
a
that
huge thing. That was huge.
huge. I have that inner desire, that innate desire to bring people together
Yeah,
because I believe in connection so wholeheartedly. It's more about my natural attributes and honoring that. So, not saying like, oh, well, viewing something that you do as really bad, and I talk about this all the time, ripping it out by the root. I'm just going to rip this thing out. I don't like this part of me. Don't do that because
right.
maybe it's serving you in some way. It's
Absolutely. I realized it was very simple. I was having a conversation with good friends, and we were having this conversation, and because she was talking about feeling like she's going through this experience where all these things with her throat and her neck are happening, and she's just like starting to, I think, take some notice of her spiritual self and her spiritual sense. She's had 3 or 4 things that just after the eclipse too. She did this big like focus in the eclipse and asking the universe, like, please help me unblock all the things that are blocking me. Right? She's
careful what you wish for.
right. She said, I want to have this and this and this, and talking about genuinely wanting a connection with her mother, genuinely wanting to get rid of the fearful negative thoughts that she'd been having, that she's had most of her life. She is somebody who is wired. It's when we were having this conversation, a very much empathic and somebody in the way who's, well, let me do this, let me do that, overperforming, let me outdo everything to be like, hey, I'm the good girl. Like mom and dad don't have to fight. Like we've talked about this,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
I've worked twice as hard and I've done all the things. She was having this neck pain, right? All this neck.
Mhm.
And then she didn't know what it was. The eclipse happens. She asks for all these things. Help me to unblock all the things. They get hit in their car. They get double hit, rear-ended, not their fault, by one vehicle, and then another vehicle. It damages her neck, or she feels the pain even more. Then they have this, been skiing her entire life. She's literally never wiped out. The first time in her life ever, she completely wipes out. She hits her head, her neck again, right? She's like, "Ginny, I just don't know. Like, I don't know what I did by asking. Like, now I'm worried because I asked." And I was like, "You know what? That's gotta be tied to a chakra or something." I was like, "You keep having these necks." She's had TMJ. And I don't know much about that. I would love to learn more, but sure as shit. I look it up and it's like, yeah, throat chakra has to do with communication and using our voice and our true identity and being authentic and showing up for ourselves and all the things. She said, I just don't understand all these things. I said, girl, you know what? I said, you asked for that. I bet you, I said, that's probably been something has blocked you in
Mhm.
your life of not doing your absolute best, is like having that blocked and not showing up for yourself the way you can. And she was like, "I just didn't even think about that." And then I'm all, "Yeah, I needed to hear that too because it's the same for me. Are you kidding?" It's one of the biggest, I'm certain. I'm sure that I've always been very more than capable of showing up for everybody around me and not very good at showing up for myself.
Yeah.
And having that in the last probably year and a half, it's an interesting evolution to have that
It's
recognition of like, yes, I'm great and I'm a nice person and all those things, but I have not been as empathetic towards myself, even a fraction, even an ounce, as I have been for many others around me, right? I think my energetic budget was jacked up in that sense that I
Mm.
had the energy there. So I just gave it away wherever I was instead of
Yeah.
just like looking and being like, well, hold on, do we have enough energy for this? Before you say yes, like before you tell this person you can do this, do we have enough energy for this? And realizing like, holy shit, I've gone this whole time, my whole life, like not even checking in with myself about those things. So yeah, I feel like stumbling. I think that's an authentic part of me that's been creeping out. And it absolutely has been a stumble. It's not like it was like, oh, look, hey, look at
Yeah.
this. This makes perfect sense. It was like, no.
And some things were just forced into. All the times that I've had major growth, a major change in my life that has forced me to get one step closer to my
Yeah.
authentic self,
Yep.
which I think I'm pretty authentic, but I'll probably be peeling this onion for a very, very long time. I'm only 43, almost 44 years old. I have a lot more life ahead of me to really see who I truly am. And it's
Yep.
only by experiences and situations coming up then I can actually be in that space and say, who am I really?
Yep.
And how do I want to respond to this? That's really true to me, but you got to start somewhere. And getting sober, I don't think I had anything to do with walking into the rooms. It was
Yeah.
like divine intervention that just came in and was like, "You're going," and pushed me. Moving to Colorado, "You're going,"
Yes.
and it was writing a book. "You're doing this," and it was like there was no saying no to any of those things. It just hit me and hit my soul so hard. And those things are what make me me. Being sober, really being able to feel my feelings, feel my emotions, living in Colorado, being closer to my soul here, being more close to nature, really finding my true self here. Maybe I could do that in New York, but I don't know. Things seem to be set up here well for me to move even closer to who I am.
I
Right.
believe that 100%.
And then everything that I'm doing now, all of this, just really tapping in, forcing me to see myself more clearly and to get very honest with myself about
Mhm.
who am I? What's my mission? What am I here for? What's my purpose? It's all tied into being authentic. I was laughing when you were talking about your neighbor and like she asked for this stuff over the eclipse and now she's getting it all. It was reminding me of doing the seventh step in AA, right? Humbly ask God or higher power, whatever,
The
to
rainbow.
remove shortcomings. I did that. And I remember like a few weeks after,
Right.
stuff was coming up. My patience was being tested. I was being triggered. I was feeling defensive. I was
Yeah.
judging people. It was like the world was just kind of eh, collaborating to like show me all of these things that needed to
We don't see
change.
them. We don't see them while we're in it. We just don't. So we ask for it, and then it's like you get a
And then it
mirror.
comes up and it's like, what?
That's
But
not
it's,
what I asked for.
yeah, exactly.
It's just like if you're driving and you're going on a road trip and it's blocked off by a bunch of shit. You're not gonna go any further unless you get, if a tree is falling on that road, like, unless you get up and remove them and be, "Oh, what happened here? Let me move this shit out of the way." You're not going through that. You're not gonna get any further on your journey unless you do that. And I think that happens a lot when we tend to feel stuck or we tend to feel like, "Why am I this is redundant. Why am I in this
Mhm.
spot again? Why am I learning this lesson again?" Whether it be I've chosen another bad marriage or I've
Mm.
chosen another bad friendship or I am in financial strain again. Like, why am I repeating? Why am I repeating? We don't realize that it's because we don't even necessarily see the trees that have fallen in the road or what is it in the road stopping me from moving forward. What?
Yeah, these events are trying to get your attention.
Mhm.
Like, continuing to find yourself in the same shitty relationship or the same fight with your mother or the same
Yes.
fight with your husband, whatever it is,
Whatever
right?
it
There's
is.
things that we keep coming up against over and over and over, even if it's with different people
And
in different forms.
disoriented when we do. We're like, "What?
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
know.
what
Why
is
is this
that?"
happening to me again? Well, maybe because the universe, your soul, which
Yeah.
is same, is
Oh, yeah.
trying to get your attention to
Yeah.
say, no, 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 sweetheart, you're supposed to go this way. You're
Yeah.
supposed to get off this road that you've been on since forever,
It's
since you
forever.
became conditioned to need these needs met or
Mhm.
whatever is going on in that
Yeah.
relationship. And now it's time to go this way.
Mhm.
And that feels uncomfortable. Change feels really uncomfortable, right? How many times have we
Yes.
said it that we'd like prefer to stay in the discomfort than do the work to change?
It's almost like you know the pattern. It's almost like having control of what's gonna happen even if it's bad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even if it's not healthy, that we know what's coming next.
We're so comfortable in certainty and predictability. We want to know what's coming so that we can be in control of how we're going to feel.
How we're gonna feel.
And
Yeah.
being authentic very often means taking that huge risk
Oh, yeah.
of just showing up, just showing up to the table, to whatever is going to be presented to you, trusting yourself that you're going to show up
Mhm.
in your authentic self, meaning that you're going to be able to handle it because you know you. You know, you can trust yourself that okay, this is who I am, and this is
Mhm.
who I am across the board.
Right.
This isn't who I am over here, and then I'm a chameleon. We were all chameleons, right?
Oh, god.
Everybody, you could probably say they were a chameleon.
Yeah.
But, like, being that same person and you might tweak it a little bit, like, based on who you're with and what those likes are together, but it's still you. You're not changing the core of who you are. That's the challenge, really, is showing up consistently over and over and over again as the person that you can love, right?
Mhm.
I feel like no how do we know when we're being authentic? I feel like I know when I'm being authentic that I like myself. that I am proud of myself, that I'm like, yeah. And I feel a sense of empowerment.
Mm.
I get this empowered feeling of like a little high five from JC. You know, I say that all the time. I love getting my high fives from JC. And I feel like whenever I do something that is on that path of authenticity, or at least moving toward it, I'm getting this little boost, or like my spirit squad is cheering, like, yeah, man, you're one step closer, right?
Yeah.
We got all the conditioning going on when we're kids and all this high school and all this stuff that we learn to survive, to be accepted, to be loved, all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And then it just takes a lot of time to
Undo it.
unlearn. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, we say
Just great.
relearn, it's really an unlearning. So there's another book, I'm big on books today apparently, The Language of Letting Go.
Love it.
And it's, Melody Beattie. It's a
Mm.
daily reader. She's like the codependent queen.
Yes. That's why I know the name.
Yes. I'll do it for like whatever, most of a year. I'm not like diligent every single day, but like I'll put it away and then like maybe 2 years later I'll pull it back out and I'll start flipping through it again. And every time I'm amazed
And what
at how distorted my thinking and my beliefs about how to be in a relationship or just how I'm viewing life, just my perception is still so twisted. Or maybe not still, maybe I'm not doing that necessarily today, but I just
oh,
think back on like, I can't believe I used to see it that way. Like, and I can't believe that the way I was thinking and living all this for all that time was wrong. Like just straight up wrong. Like, yeah, we want to be very inclusive and open minded and everybody does things the way they need to do it, all that stuff. But the truth is, there is just some wrong ways of doing things when they're hurtful. When they're hurting you or hurting others, it's wrong.
yeah. I don't think any of us are ever, no matter what, no matter how good we are at like starting to go, oh, okay, this is my authentic self, no matter what, it is always going to be a process of tuning. Like I think it's just like an instrument. You can tune a guitar. You have instruments all over your house. We could tune a guitar right now and it could be perfectly fine. And the temperature change or anything, a bunch
Uh-huh.
of things are going to
Uh-huh.
change it. It doesn't mean it still can't sound amazing, but when it's not in tune, it sounds like shit.
Exactly.
So it's like
Yes.
matter and no instrument stays tuned all the time. You have to tune a piano, you have to tune all those things. We are instruments, I fully believe that. And it's a matter of tuning ourselves, of knowing like, okay, everything's in line. All right, that's authentic. That's who I am. I'm in tune with myself, with God, with the universe. I'm in tune. And when we're out of tune, God, we know it's so dissonant. I think I used to just go ahead and I was that person still playing the violin that's totally out of tune. I'm like up on stage still playing instead of like, dude, you need to go tune yourself, especially in active drinking and things like that, right? We really are like, let me just keep playing. It's-
Yeah.
we're we're not tuned in to ourselves, to our
Not at all.
spirits, to God.
Not You don't even have a fighting chance when you're in that state because that's not the natural state. And
No.
that's it's not you're blocked. You're blocked from any sort of intuition or
Yeah.
message or awareness that's coming in
Yeah.
about who you are and who you need to be or who you are meant to be.
Yeah.
Really, it's like the definition of authenticity, I guess, for me. It's being in alignment with who I am meant to be. And I love that. I was thinking of a car when you were talking about alignment. You get into an accident, something happens and shakes you up, get misaligned. You got
Yeah.
to bring it to the shop and you got to get realigned.
Yeah.
That's why we have meditation. That's why
Right.
we have these practices that we do every single day to
Mhm.
stay
In
sane,
alignment.
in alignment, and to stay open so that all resentment isn't crowding our hearts of then not being able to see how
Right.
we're supposed to love.
Yeah.
That's why we do all of this is because it's like every day it almost feels like a restart. It almost feels like something
Yeah.
happens in my sleep where like I get like undone. It's like rewinds. I wake up and I have some thoughts that I used to have. I mean, it's definitely not. It's getting better. Definitely getting better over time, but
Sure.
they're still out there.
Because we have to get
Yeah.
tuned.
So Ginny just got a new car. Tell us about this new beautiful
Good.
car that you got.
It's a little insane. It's not like a car I would normally um it's perfect for work and because I'm doing a lot of driving, which is awesome. I got to go to Vail. I was in Vail a couple weeks ago. I'm traveling all the time. I'm getting to see a lot of people in person, which is fantastic. And sure enough, my transmission and I've had a 2014 Acura NBX. It's been awesome. But all at once, all these things started to happen. Like there was something going on, oddly enough, with the alignment. The
Oh.
transmission was about to like, they're like, "You're probably gonna need to get a new transmission." We're talking $4,000, $5,000, all these things. And it made sense. But again, right? I'm the kind of person that like, I don't never at one time in my life I've had a new car ever. And immediately Tom's like, "Why don't we just get you a new MDX?" And I'm like, "That's bananas. That's for really successful, like wealthy people. That's not for me. Like that's what are you doing?" And I sat there thinking, like, wow, this is a story. This is something that I have had in my own mind. And again, going along with that idea of, well, it's okay. I'm kind of the person who just like, I'm not really here to outshine anybody. I don't want anyone uncomfortable. Whatever I need to do to dim myself down to not have any of those feelings of somebody not wanting to be around me or whatever it is because of either outshining them or anything like that. That's been a problem. Even the cars I drove all the time. I had this big, giant, crazy red truck in high school. They used to call me Big Red. They call the truck Big Red. The
Uh-huh.
fender was like hanging off the it was like disastrous, but it was epic. That's like that was me. I was driving
Yeah.
around the crazy, the shit show. So getting this vehicle in my head going, this is too nice of a thing, like for me to have, for me to be driving around, even though that's literally my number one like tool that I have for work, right? It's like, if I'm going to be successful and safe, driving 500 miles a week or whatever it is, like, of course I deserve that. But in my head, this old story of like, oh no, but the authentic you is the one who's driving a car that has something at least broken on it or is older. It's not the new thing. Like that's the story. And it dawned on me after one of these weeks of like, I had actually felt really, I was exhausted, but I felt really proud of myself for the amount of effort and the job that I did, like
Mhm.
in work. It was a very successful week. And it was since I've had this car and I was sitting in the car kind of like, well, what if that's all bullshit though? What if the authentic story is what if you are somebody who is successful? What if you are somebody who drives a car like this because you work your ass off and you're doing a good job at it? What if that's the authentic story? And that is this awkward and strange feeling to be in too. And what if you don't have to feel bad because somebody might be side eyeing you and going, oh, that bitch got a new car? That it's okay that they feel that way and that I don't have to like dim everything down. I'm realizing my authentic self is somebody who it's okay to be successful. It's
Yep.
okay that
Yeah.
my role is not the shit show, that I don't have to have that identity. It was a very interesting and uncomfortable process. Or having people like, wow, that's a really nice car. That's not something, and I'm not saying it in that way of like, oh, well, even already me just saying that makes me uncomfortable. That's never been the person that I am. I'm the person that's like, oh gosh, look, can you hear that girl's car? Hey, your car's dripping oil on my driveway. I'm that girl. You know that girl.
Yep. No, the little kitty litter didn't take care of, so don't worry about that. But yes,
My
I hear
car
you.
was draining oil on Jim and Amanda's beautiful driveway. But that is the point that right now I'm driving a car that there's literally nothing wrong with, not even the windshield wiper squeaks. And that was uncomfortable for me out the gate to be like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm worthy of this. I don't know if I deserve this. And then having some of that quiet time with myself, like, yeah, well, what if your true authentic self is the person who is very successful because you're early to everything and because you're more than fucking organized in it and that you come up with the plan and that you execute in the plan, because again, old programming, all those old comfortable costumes, those old images that made me feel like I could fit in the tribe. That's like what we do at times, right? To not feel on the outside of the tribe. Well, what do I need to do I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to set anybody off. I don't want to do any of those things. But I think again, I think some of it's age and just experience, whatever else. I don't think that was my authentic self. That wasn't.
Mhm.
My authentic self is somebody who's working her ass off who deserves to be in a car like that.
And your authentic self is humble. I think sometimes we get afraid of having too much or being showy or whatever.
Mhm.
Because I know for me, I get weird like, oh, is this gonna change me? Once I could get to my authentic self and know that who I truly am in my heart is I don't want to say humble because humble people don't call themselves humble, but but my sponsor in New York says everything after but is bullshit. I love that. It's one of my favorites.
Everything after
But
"but" is bullshit.
everything after but is bullshit.
Ah, I like it.
But the truth is I can be comfortable in my lifestyle because I know it's not changing who I am in my core.
Mm.
And I think that it's important for me to know who I am authentically and just my heart. I know my heart and I can trust myself that yes, I can have success. I can be successful. I could drive a nice car. I could live in a nice house or whatever it is. And it's not going to change who I am in my authentic core. Do you feel like maybe you had to have that reckoning with yourself of like, who am I truly? Just because I'm sitting behind this wheel doesn't mean that I am a different kind of person.
I didn't. It wasn't even that. I think it was more of the idea of a worse thing. I didn't think like, "Oh, this might change who I am in my core," at all. It was more of, "You are worthy of having this. Nobody handed this to you by any stretch, and you've been in situations that have been uncomfortable," like I'm talking about. For us, we have had situations that have been financial. We've chosen these situations where we've had to learn lessons the hard way, both Tom and myself, and in separately and together and in a marriage together. That we didn't grow up having all this like, his mom was very good with money from what he says his father wasn't. I didn't grow up with all this understanding of how to be healthy in finance. I think that was part of it too. Like, oh, but your story's always been that, you're having to figure out how to come up from the other side of finance. And somebody who's always having to come up from the other side of finance doesn't have a car like this. You
Mm.
do that math, but then the other part is, yeah, but maybe now you're not somebody who has to be coming from the other side of finance now.
Maybe
Maybe
that
you can
was
come
you at one point. And since we're constantly growing, constantly changing, our
Yeah.
authenticity is also going to change
Mhm.
as we change. You could be fluid in your authenticity.
Yeah, because it really comes down to how you're choosing to absorb and react to things. That's when you're authentic. The authenticity isn't necessarily, well, me being authentic means that I believe that this is bad or this is good. No, me being authentic is me allowing myself to be in the setting where I'm gonna actually let it come in. I'm going to take it all in and have it move through me and have my reaction to it in a place that's from my heart at that time, not me having to, well, let me see how I feel based on how they feel. Oh, well, my neighbors over here feel this way. So that's how I feel. And that's going to change all the time if you can be in the space of like authentically letting it in, letting yourself process it, and then how you're going to react. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
am I going to not react? I don't want to say anything because I don't want to hurt their feelings. Or I am going to say it because I want to feel some power right now. I want to make somebody feel guilty because I'm going to be passive aggressive because I'm going to gain something out of that. Instead of just, how is it hitting me right now at the core of this without wondering what the outcome's gonna be based on somebody else's opinion or thought or justification of it, and then letting myself react in that way and not just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna react towards this thing because, well, this is what Republicans believe. Well, this is what Democrats believe. Well, this is what
Yep.
independents believe, and I gotta go with what that is."
Yep.
That's not being authentic. We're not always gonna react the same, but as long as we have the channel tuned in of like, "All right, well, what do I feel when it comes into my ears or when I'm hearing it and I let it hit my heart for real, and I let myself be in that frequency, what really comes out of that? How do I really react?"
You're talking about a much deeper level of authenticity. And I'm so glad that you're going here with that in this direction because it's like a heart centered authenticity. So I could change my mind about something. That's like surface level shit, right? First of all, people, none of this matters. Okay.
So,
Everything that you're
foremost.
seeing out there, everything you're hearing, none of it matters. Okay.
Mm,
But you may have a certain feeling towards something or another, right? Because we're human and we live in this world and we're
mhm.
concerned about our health and our safety and blah, blah, blah. So what I think you're talking about is like having this core, deeper, heart centered authenticity in the way that you respond to things, that is unchanging. Once you get
Yes,
to that point of knowing yourself, right?
exactly.
That is unchanging. That is stable. That is who you are, regardless of how you feel about
Mhm,
something.
mhm.
It's just two totally different levels of
Yeah.
being authentic,
Mhm.
right? Because a lot of people might think, oh, authenticity is my like identity. It's how I dress. It's how I look. It's what I how I sound. That's just like your outward appearance. That's just like not necessarily a facade
No.
because it is who we are. It's an outward expression of who we are.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about authenticity, like a deeper emotional, spiritual authenticity
Right.
is something that is in you and is what's someone looking for? Non-negotiable,
Right. Yeah,
non-negotiable.
it's non-changing, and it's been there since the moment you were born, and it'll be there till the time you're done breathing, and it's a frequency. It's a frequency
Mhm.
within you. It's there and it's unchanged by the outside things, which is why meditation, I feel like, is probably such an effective and big deal because it teaches you how to get to that space.
Yes.
When I hear the comparison, I always think about it because it's amazing to think about. And it happened even in the plane. We were hitting all kinds of clouds and it was crazy. It was like stormy. And as soon as we got high enough above blue sky, so that didn't mean there wasn't a storm happening. We just
Yeah.
got above it. Like we
Yeah.
like No, it doesn't mean that there wasn't thunder and lightning. It means we got above it. It doesn't mean life's not going to be painful. You're just going to be getting to a point of seeing it that's not letting it all impact you. Or they talk about the ocean where meditation is. They talk about how there could be this just, crazy tsunami going on the surface, but it is always dead silent at the bottom of the ocean. Like it's silent, even if there's a tsunami happening right above that meditation. It's the same thing. Getting called back to that place within us that's unchanged. It's unchanging. It's our core, is what it is. I believe, I think.
Mm.
And we're not, no one's ever there all the time. I mean, maybe Jesus, some of these ascended masters figured out how to do it. But I think that's part of the whole thing of what we're doing. The more you can find yourself in that space and that place of like, okay, that's the authentic me. That's the place. And we don't just switch it on and off. We
Oh my
can't. We've got
god.
this density and physical world we live in. And our brains, which are thinking I don't know how it's an obscene amount. It's a crazy amount of thousands of thoughts a day. Talk
60,
about
60,000 and probably
60,000 and
more.
the percentage, do you know how many the percentage that are old thoughts? A shitload.
And ones that you actually see, which is really scary too,
We
because there are
yeah, the
things that are happening below the surface unconsciously that we don't even know are
well,
going on.
that Joe Dispenza talks about it a lot, that's why people's lives don't change or why we get stuck again. I think the other reason why it's super important to figure out how to at least get glimpses of your authentic self, because if we think 60,000 thoughts a day and most of them are from programming and old shit, and the way that we get to the new real thoughts is by separating from the ones, okay, so we had a shitty day yesterday and all the things that happened and whatever. This person cut me off and I had this and my brakes went out and whatever else. You're thinking those thoughts from today, they're not even the real thoughts of what's happening right now.
Yes.
And that's going to shape your day and your reality today. Thoughts of
Well,
something that's already in the past and not even existent. So
mhm.
finding the place, we have our authentic selves and our authentic thoughts when we're free from that. When our brain's not in the 60,000 thoughts of like, oh man, my mom did that again. My friend did this and my employer, we're stuck in that. And that's not us authentically being in the moment right now. It's
No,
not.
that's all conditioned stuff. And like we said, unlearning. What's coming to my head is retrain your brain. It takes a really, really, really long time
Yeah.
to get rid of some of this old programming you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up on 18 years of sobriety in July, and I can tell you it's only in, and I don't say that for any accolades. I say that
Yeah.
to tell you how long some of this stuff takes.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't take other people as long. But I can say that now I can truly say that I can react to, I'd say 90%, it's not even, right? It's not even there. 90% of the situations the same, like with love, coming from love. It's automatic now. I don't really have to search far for it. And if those other 10 or 15%, maybe even 20% of thoughts that I have that are not coming from a place of kindness and love and understanding, if that default is there, very quickly, I can now turn it around and see it and say, that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to be because it's so uncomfortable. It's
No.
not like I'm just this great person and I would just want to be better and I want to be loved. I do. But it's because I can't sit in that anymore. It creates more anxiety for me to stay in something that I know is not really helping me or the world, right? If I'm putting out this bad energy,
Mhm.
you know, that gives me more anxiety than shifting it. Even if it's hard, and it is hard at times in those 20%, 15% of time, whatever it is that I'm not just like voluntarily. Like it almost feels like it's like a voluntary response now because I have trained my brain for many, many years to see something, feel it, step into it, and then switch it and go to something new. And so this stuff takes a really long time. Somebody recently told me I'm an overthinker. Definitely. You know that, Ginny. I mean, I think about everything.
All the details are like are swimming. You know what it is? You have all the outcome swimming is what it is. It'll be
Yeah.
it could go this way, it could go this way. What if this? It could go that. You have all the outcomes.
Yes, and I like that about me because I can kinda see. I could
Right.
foretell if I do this, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, you can
If I
prevent a
do
lot of
this,
stuff from going wrong.
or it's more likely that this is gonna happen. It's not like I know exactly how things are gonna turn out.
Mhm.
But from past experience, right, I can go off of past experience, how I've done things, what has history taught me,
Oh,
what
yes,
has it
great
shown
show.
me. I use that and I can kinda see a bigger picture of things and then say, "You know what? If I act this way or if I say this instead of this, I'm more likely to get a better outcome." So you might be thinking too much, but and I've been saying lately, I like to call myself a critical thinker. I'm not an overthinker. I'm a critical thinker. I like to weigh a lot of options, and I feel like that serves me well. It has been serving me very well. I'd say in the last at least 6 months or so that I've been
Right.
very, very conscious of my response to things and having it come from that authentic place where then
Yeah.
I could be proud of myself because you talked about self worth
Mhm.
and the car.
Yeah.
That's how my self worth is built by
Right.
consistently doing things that make me proud of myself.
Mhm.
That's
From the point of tapping into that authentic channel of who you are and not the one who, because we all got them. We all have these masks. We all have a lot of masks, and we all are very good at choreographing. We all have an ability to let the world see us how we think we're gonna be most accepted when they do.
yes.
So, getting to the point where you are having that reward system in your mind of like, "I'm not doing this based off what the world needs to see of me. I'm doing this based off of this is genuinely, like, coming from my soul. This is coming from my spirit," and giving yourself that opportunity, that reward system. That's not something everybody just does out the gate. Like, I'm gonna feel the reward and be proud of myself for being my genuine, authentic self, not the one who's coming from the place of fear or the one who's coming from the place of, "I know what mask to put on right now to make the world see me how I think they need to see me."
Mhm.
It's like the more that we go, "Wow, that was genuinely me, and I feel really good because I showed up for myself.
Mhm.
I did what I needed, or I took the action what I needed to do. I said what I needed to say. I listened to my own needs." That's been a huge, huge thing where it's been surfacing for me is I'm giving myself the time I need or listening. Like, "Whoa, you're overstimulated, dude. You're overstimulated because you've been around a ton of people. Be by yourself. It's fine."
Mhm.
Or be, "Oh gosh, I didn't respond to this person right away. Like they're gonna be upset at me or their feelings are hurt," or me genuinely being like, "I literally have this much bandwidth right now. I love you, but I can't with you right now." Or
Yes.
"I love you," but you know what I mean? Because generally I'd be the
That
person like, "No, no, please let me be the person who's going to engage in your cha-cha." 'Cause I
totally.
will.
And this reminds me of the last show I did with Marsha. I don't know if you watched the whole thing, but this is very much self-care stuff that
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking about as well.
Oh god.
It
She's
totally rolls into that.
again, that comes down to, I think, when we're getting to that point of being authentic as well. When we realize, like, no, I need to do the things to help keep me healthy too. Not just I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to listen to myself. I'm going to
Yeah.
be okay with setting up boundaries.
Yes.
I'm not going to just let myself leak out all this energy that I feel like, oh God, if I'm not giving it to this person all the time or doing the cha cha with them all the
Mhm.
time, even though we're not going anywhere, it's definitely a form of self care. It's also a sign that we're at least having that ability to tune into our authentic selves when we're able to do that, when we're able to listen to ourselves. And, whether it be sometimes we have to create distance in relationships where it's like, it's always been a certain way or we've gone about it in a certain pattern. And sometimes we have to go, yeah, no, I can't do that anymore. We have family at times or things like that or someone you work with, whatever it is, where you feel this obligation of like, no, I got to keep doing it the same steps I was taking before in the same
Yeah.
tempo. It's like,
I agree.
no, you don't. And the greatest thing you could do for them and for you actually is to let yourself be authentically listening to your needs in
Yes.
all of this as well.
That's a challenge when you know it, when you can sense it, when you do something and you're like, "Oh, man, that didn't feel good," or
Yeah.
"That's not really who I want to be,
You
even
are.
if I'm not that just yet, but I'm aware." That's how
Yeah.
you become it, is by
Yeah.
saying, "That just didn't feel good to me." So that's the challenge. We haven't really done a challenge in a while, but I think the challenge is this week, the next couple of weeks, whatever, pay attention to how you're feeling when you're
Mhm.
in these situations that you've just always acted that way.
Yeah.
Feel into how that feels to you now.
Yep. Is it old
Be aware.
programming or is it genuinely coming from who you really are? That's a
Yeah,
great challenge. I love it.
that's it. That's it. Ginny, do you have anything else that you want to add? We're kind of going over time here, but
No, I mean, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity all the time. And just to add that it's not always comfortable as we're trying to figure out exactly who our authentic selves are. And don't be too hard on yourself about that because, especially again, if you've been somebody who's had any kind of codependent behavior or somebody who grew up in a household that wasn't super stable or whatever the deal is, as we're working through it, don't be so hard on yourself when it does feel uncomfortable at first because it's going to, because it's not your normal go to setting. And there's going to be people who get upset with you, and it's okay. There's going to be people who you're not serving as their constant, like, energetic source anymore. And it's okay, and hopefully by you taking action for yourself, trying to reach into that authentic space, you're going to do that for people around you as well by you doing it. So just
yes.
be easy on yourself as you're going through it. And it's a constant work in progress. We're constantly having to find that tuning fork and figure out where we're at. And that's
And
it.
again, when it gets really hard and when you're like, yeah, I don't, it's just easier to just be my old self, whatever, even if it's not comfortable. Remember that you're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing this for the world.
Mhm.
I say all the time, our healed energy has the power to heal the world, just as our unhealed energy that we're walking around with all this pain and all this grief and this trauma and this old programming conditioned stuff is manifesting out there in the world that you're
Yeah,
seeing,
absolutely.
right? You have that power within you to help make the world a better place by doing what Ginny just said.
It's the
So,
most powerful thing you can do. And it's not the easiest, it's not the simplest, but it's literally, we talk about it a lot. I forgot who we learned it from.
Tux.
Okay. So the power of, look at an oak tree, look at any tree. Everything that that tree ever needed started from a teeny tiny little seed. Everything that was going to create. Obviously, you have the sun, you have everything else, but the contents of what was going to make that was inside of a seed. So it's like we have that same ability all the time. You take the size of a seed and think about how big a tree grows. We have that within us. You choose to be living authentically, you're going to grow that out into the world for the world to share in. If you are at a point of not being authentic or over and over again coming from that place that's like pre-programming or our fear space, that's also what we put out there.
Yeah.
But anytime you run across somebody who's functioning from that authentic place, it's going to impact you. And anytime someone runs into you and gets to have that exchange with you when you're at your authentic place, it's going to impact them. So we all have the ability every day. We're weaving this tapestry together at the same time, and it feels chaotic. The world is visually outside of us right now incredibly chaotic. None of us has it in us to go, let me just stop all of it right now. And there's times where it feels like it's progressing and intensifying even more, but we can go inward. We can deal with whatever the seed is here and nourish that and water that
Yeah.
and
Yep.
put sunshine on that.
Yep. The power that you do have. That's the power that we all have.
Mhm. And we are
100%.
here with you doing it as you are too.
Yeah. We are with you. We are learning and
Love
growing and
you.
rising and all of
Love
that
you.
together. So thank you for being here. Please subscribe, like, do the thing.
Yes.
Love you guys. Have a good one. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Love you guys. Peace out.
If this episode resonates with you and you want to dive deeper, check out my blog, Get Real, all in on love, loss, and connection at AmandaMcCoyFlanagan.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
You can also find me on Instagram at The Flippin' Phoenix.
See you next time.
Until then, let your soul rise.